Thank you everyone for being here. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar on navigating careers in AI for Black and Indigenous students with Black and Indigenous leaders. This webinar will explore the diverse opportunities available in the growing field of artificial intelligence and machine learning. And our panel will feature accomplished Black and Indigenous professionals who have carved out successful careers in these fields. They will share their personal journeys, discuss the roles they play in their respective organizations, and offer insights into how you can begin and thrive in a career in AI. While we may all be joining from different locations today, I wanted to pause to acknowledge the land on which Vector is located in Toronto, which is now a meeting place for many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, as well as newcomers to Canada from around the globe. Though this webinar is being brought to you virtually, we are each located in a particular place that has a history, traditions, and stories that should be honored. I join you today from the traditional territories of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Williams Treaty signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. We are grateful for being hosted on this land. Please feel free to post your questions in the Q&A function during this webinar, and we will do our best to respond to them. At the end of this webinar, you'll hear from Flora Wan, who will share more details about our Excel to AI workshop for Black and Indigenous students this fall. The deadline to apply is August 20th. Now, I'd like to introduce our moderator, Yinka Oladimeji. Yinka is a seasoned data scientist and AI practitioner. He has led numerous data science and analytics projects across a wide range of industries, including oil and gas, consulting, retail, and finance. Yinka's career includes impactful roles at the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, Canadian Tire Corporation, Vector Institute, and most recently the Royal Bank of Canada, where he is the analytics lead on the Avion loyalty program. With a deep expertise in data science and advanced analytics, Yinka has consistently delivered innovative solutions that drive business performance and growth. His work involves developing models and leveraging cutting-edge technologies to solve complex problems. As a committed advocate for diversity and inclusion in tech, Yinka is passionate about mentoring aspiring AI professionals and creating supportive environments. Yinka, over to you.
Thank you, Taylor. Hi, everyone. I think I'll proceed by introducing our panelists in no particular order. So I'll start with Kia Muktar. So Ms. Kia brings decades of IT industry experience driven by profound passion for leveraging technology to drive business impact. So with expertise spanning cutting-edge technologies such as cloud, ML, natural language processing, and AI applications, she helps solve diverse business problems. Currently, she serves as Senior Director at CIBC, leading the digital transformation initiatives and spearheading efforts to modernize and innovate through AI, cloud, and advanced technologies. Ms. Muktar's remarkable journey is enriched through continuous learning and growth that empowered her to make meaningful contributions to the evolving technology landscape. In recognition of her commitment for excellence, Ms. Muktar has been honored with several prestigious awards, including the Women of Color in Technology All-Star Award and the Black Engineer of the Year Modern Day Technology Leaders Award. As a Master of Technology Architecture with global experience serving diverse industry, she brings deep and broad knowledge and experience. Welcome, Kia, to the panel.
Thank you.
So the next panelist I'll introduce would be Lynnsey Chartrand. So Lynnsey holds the role of Indigenous Projects Manager at MILA, where she's dedicated to weaving Indigenous knowledges, talents, voices, and perspective into the very fabric of AI landscape through collaborative initiatives. Before joining MILA, Lynnsey played a key role in managing Indigenous programming and outreach at McGill University. With a robust 6-year history in policy work within the innovation sector, She is deeply passionate about promoting equal opportunities across all sectors of the Canadian economic ecosystem. Lynnsey's academic foundation is in sociology, where she specializes in citizenship, nationalism, and state violence. On a personal level, Lynnsey, a mother of 3 young boys, was born and raised in Treaty 4 and proudly embraces her Red River Métis heritage through her father's family. Welcome to the panel, Lynnsey. So I think the next panelist I'll introduce would be Nifemi Bamgbose. So Nifemi Bamgbose is an applied research scientist at ServiceNow. He holds a master's in electrical and computer engineering from the University of Waterloo and a bachelor's in electrical engineering from Covenant University in Nigeria. With a passion for responsible development and deployment of artificial intelligence, he has contributed to building machine learning products for optimizing energy usage in homes across Europe, and recently building and training language models to identify and mitigate bias in news and social media text. He's proficient in Python, deep learning frameworks, and he excels in cross-functional collaboration. Welcome to the panel, Nifemi. So, and then finally, I'll introduce Brian Ritchie. So Brian hails from Shaplo Cree First Nation and is a driving force behind Kama.AI, an indigenous artificial intelligence provider, where he serves as founder and CEO. He possesses a Bachelor of Engineering from Lakehead University and an MBA from Lake Superior State University. Prior to launching Kama.AI, he held prominent VP and director level roles in sales and marketing at global technology companies, including Oracle, Ericsson, and ZTE. And Brian actively engages in advisory capacities, lending his expertise to bodies like Ingenuity at Lakehead University and Ted Rogers School of Management MBA program. Moreover, Brian extends his commitment to community service by serving as board member for Carey's Place, Canada's premier autism agency, and multiple Indigenous economic and development corporations. Welcome, Brian. Okay, so I think with everyone on board now, we can go into the panel questions. So I'll start with the very interesting questions for everyone. So all our panelists are going to answer this question in different orders. So I'll start with Kier. Can you describe a typical day in your role working with AI and ML?
Absolutely.
How does your work impact the project or communities you're involved in?
Yeah, a significant portion of my day is dedicated to collaborate with the business, delivery, technology partners, and provide technology leadership to ensure our joint efforts help progress our organization's objectives. I focus on seamless integration of technologies, not one of them, but they need to integrate seamlessly, and explore how emerging technologies such as AI and ML can enhance our ability to serve our clients better, improve time to market, while mitigating potential risks. For the same reason, I work with diverse partners in technology like Microsoft and others, as well as in business, to ensure the latest and greatest capabilities that would help us mitigate risk. I also work closely with extended teams within my organization to ensure adherence to best practices, organizational standards, and alignment that would help us mitigate risks and deliver a technology capability that is functioning as expected. Mentorship and team development are central to my role. I allocate time to help CIBC members as well as BPTN members to ensure that they grow and reach to their career aspirations. Additionally, I allocate time to continuous learning, particularly in exploring new technologies and methodologies. Lately, my focus has been exploring how best to leverage AI and ML while minimizing risk and maximizing value. My day concludes with a review of my daily accomplishments, reviewing the backlogs to ensure that how I would start my day and how I manage it effectively. And finally, I set priorities for the next days. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kia, for that elaborate and detailed description of your day. So I'll turn to Brian right now. So Brian, can you, the same thing, can you just describe a typical day in your role working with AI and ML? And if you can probably expatiate a little bit, like how does your role impact like projects or communities that you are involved in?
Sure. So thank you very much. And I guess I probably focus on three primary areas. One is what's coming up, much like Kia had mentioned that this industry is changing extremely quickly. And I, as CEO of an AI company, need to be aware of what the competition is offering and how we can react to that. But not only that, how we can incorporate some of those techniques into our platform. So that's one, is studying what's going on in the market. The other is customer focused. It could be delivering a sales pitch or whatever it is, but definitely looking at, I'm a solution guy, I'm a builder, I'm a mechanical engineer, so I like to build things, and I've always been for most of my career, a solution engineer, if you want to call it that. So I love getting together with customers or potential customers and talking about what their problems are, what keeps them awake at night, and how we could assist in that. The most fun part of my job is probably working with the development team. So I'm the CEO, but I wear the hat of CTO as well. I have a product manager that works with me, and then of course the team leads. But the enjoyable, the funnest part of my job is to say, what could we do next? What could we add into our solution? And we are guided by, you asked about, involvement of communities or whatever, or maybe also what is naturally involved from coming from my community and from Indigenous people. We are guided by, and they reside on our website, Indigenous values. They come from the grandfather teachings, the 7 grandfather teachings. I'm not going to go through them all. You can go and look for them. They're very let's say, regarded within the Indigenous community across all nations. And we have adopted some of those, like truth and wisdom and respect. These things must be present in our applications so that we can responsibly deliver AI or virtual agents on behalf of our customers or the people that we serve or the companies that we serve or the communities that we serve. So absolutely, that's the most enjoyable part. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Brian. That was great. So I'll move on to Nifemi. So Nifemi, if you could also describe a typical day in your role working with AI and ML.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Yinka. Yeah. So for me, a typical day in the life is sort of a mix of research, development, collaboration, and learning. So I work as an R, so I'm an applied research scientist. So with that in mind, I need to sort of understand what advances there are in ML, but also understand what our customers' needs are and sort of how those advances can be implemented to make better products for our customers. So for instance, that could mean identifying a weakness with a model. So let's say there's something we would like a model to be able to do that it doesn't currently do. Then speaking to a product manager or a business stakeholder to understand what the specific customer pain points is. So how would having this feature help our customers? How would the customer potentially use this feature? And then go from that to looking into literature, right? Like seeing how the community is addressing or approaching that problem, seeing how other people are trying to solve it. It might involve reading a paper or two, comparing approaches across different papers, and then with the context of what our customers' pain points are, sort of decide on what the best approach is to take. It also involves a lot of writing code. So when I do identify, what the best approach is, implement that, work with other team members to define what that approach is, then write that in code, tests, and iterate over that to ensure we have the best solution. So this could be, for instance, doing some training. This could be building a pipeline, a data pipeline. This could be building a framework for model evaluation, things like that. I think one thing about the work I do that I enjoy the most, I think it has pretty broad impact, is that, you know, the making models better can help us make good decisions. It can provide better context to make good decisions, and it can help us make decisions faster. So yeah, I think that's pretty impactful. Yeah, that's mostly it.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks, Kia, Brian, and Nifemi for for the wonderful answers you provided. So I would move on to Lynnsey. So for Lynnsey now, my question to you would be, if students don't have a traditional degree like computer science or engineering, what would be your best advice for breaking into the AI and ML field?
Yeah, that's a great question. And thank you for inviting me to speak here today. I think one of the first things is to leverage alternative programming or education that's available online. There's a lot out there, you know, whether it be through Coursera. I think it was the University of Helsinki had a really great kind of intro to ML course online, and many of these courses are accessible without any kind of post-secondary training. The other thing I would add, actually, well, like I'll insert my plug here. MILA, in partnership with Inspire, which is a national organization that supports Indigenous education at various levels, we launched a pilot program this summer called Indigenous Pathfinders in AI, and it's the first kind of tailored, dedicated career training program for Indigenous talent to kind of learn about, yes, the foundations of machine learning, but also, you know, kind of AI adjacent subject matter like AI safety, responsible AI. There's also a strong emphasis on cultural components, and it's guided by, you know, the 4 R's of Indigenous education or research: respect, relevance, reciprocity. Well, I'm going to forget the first one, right, or the fourth one right now, but so that is also an option that's available to folks who don't have post-secondary training. We had a pilot year, like I said, this summer, and we had 12 participants go through the program, 2 or 3 of which had no post-secondary background. So that's also an initiative that's available. I'll say that, you know, hopefully initiatives like this start to emerge more frequently. I know the other institutes have other offerings as well, so to keep your eyes open for that. I think kind of more broadly, also, you know, building up a portfolio, building up your network, you know, finding mentors. You know, at least right now, Indigenous folks are so underrepresented in this space. It's difficult to find Indigenous mentors in the AI space, but hopefully that's something that we're going to change as, like, through initiatives like the Pathfinder program, as we kind of build up an alumni network and a community of support. Hopefully, you know, kind of future aspiring machine learning scientists or folks who want to work in the AI space can kind of look to mentorship as an opportunity also to learn about the space, to find guidance and support, and to identify potential opportunities. Beyond that, I mean, the AI space is moving so quickly. Staying up to date, keep learning, and always kind of, I think, keep at the heart of what you do, you know, a focus on community impact, as well as to bring your own community experience and your personal experience to the AI space. You know, drawing on your own experiences or those of your community. This is a unique value add within the AI space, and particularly within areas like responsible AI, ethical AI, AI safety, Indigenous data sovereignty. So I think ultimately it's about showing your commitment and kind of building up again, like I said, that portfolio and that network, and keeping to stay up to date and to keep learning.
Oh, thank you very much. That was really wonderful. And I would also pass this question to Brian. I know, Brian, listeners would also want to, like, learn from you what you think about that. Like, you know, if you don't, like, have that traditional degree, Like, how can you actually break into the AI ML field?
Yeah, it's a very good question for me because, as I said, I'm a mechanical engineer who runs an AI company. It was our goal from the start to build an AI that was accessible to lay people. We wanted to build the complicated platform, but we wanted to be able to be programmed by lay people, by community members, by business teams, and we've achieved that. So ours is a zero code platform programmed in natural language. It is not a machine learning application. It's a different type of AI. I'm not here to sell the program. I'm just saying that there are different types out there. Ours is a knowledge graph, which actually has a natural language understanding layer, and you can talk to this knowledge graph. You're not talking to a large language model. What that means is that the actual programming of that thing has very little to do with vectors and those types of things. It's actually putting information into the system. In fact, we've had I would say 4 non-technical programmers working on implementation projects using our zero code application to actually install it in customer environments. So there is more out there than deep science and deep machine learning tech. There are zero code, and I think there is an interest in the industry to make technology more accessible. We, especially also as Indigenous people or other, let's say, underrepresented groups, we don't want to be underrepresented in the field of AI, meaning that we don't want the AIs to be just serving the major populations. We want them to also serve underrepresented populations. So I think, and someone mentioned sociology. There's a lot of sociology work. There's a lot of ethics work, much like Lynnsey mentioned. You can bring your skills, your values to the table without being part of the deep tech, let's say, part of the implementation or the review or whatever it is. Last week, I was at the Vector Institute with a team of people from across Canada talking about responsible AI governance. And they were interested in hearing Indigenous perspectives, but not only that, perspectives from Canadian Tire, Bank of Montreal, CIBC, all of the name brands across Canada. So there is a much more human side than a data side to AI, and I think that's where Indigenous people, people of color, people of underrepresented communities have an opportunity to ensure or work to ensure that the AIs of the world serve everyone equally, if possible. There's the whole area of ESG and DEI that we're aware of, and I think we fall into that as people of color and underrepresented groups, Indigenous people. Well, we have a role then. We have a voice, we have a role, we have a responsibility, and I think that you can apply that without being doing the vectorization processes and the model tuning and all the other things that are going on.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brian. I like that part, that there is more to the human side of the AI. And of course, thank you, Lynnsey, for the elaboration on you have to learn more, lean more on leverage more like resources that are available, your network, mentors. So you don't necessarily have to have the traditional degrees before you are a practitioner in AI. So the next question, I would like to move on to Nifemi now. So Nifemi, what initially sparked your interest in AI and machine learning? And how did you navigate your career path to reach your current position? I know a lot of our listeners, they really want to hear from you and they want to see how you actually did this. So
Yeah, thanks, Yinka. Yeah, so I think my undergrad, my education background is engineering. Like I studied engineering, but I studied electrical engineering, so it's a bit different from machine learning. I learned to build power systems and plan energy generation. So a bit different, but still related. But I did a couple of internships while I was in school. So I interned at a telco company back in Nigeria. And if you know anything about telco, they have a lot of data I think that was my first, interaction with like large amounts of data. And I wasn't even doing machine learning. I was essentially just doing things within Excel or like other like business intelligence tools. But essentially just gaining insights from the data, finding patterns. And I think what that sparked in me was the awareness that, with a large amount of data, you can actually make intelligent decisions, and you can build systems through those intelligent decisions, right? So then I decided, like, how can I combine this, data world with sort of what my education background is? So for my undergrad thesis, I worked on a project that combined energy generation with machine learning. So trying to provide essentially ML-driven suggestions to users on their energy consumption. So a lot of sustainability work, basically. And that sort of opened my eyes to the fact that you don't necessarily need to be a computer scientist. You don't need to have the, most expected background for machine learning. And you can take the knowledge you have from another domain and combine it with, a passion and interest in seeing intelligent systems and create things like that. So yeah, I also did a couple of internships. Prior to all of these internships, I think all of the knowledge of machine learning was not what I learned in school, right? Like it provided me a good foundation, but I did a lot of online courses. So I was best friends with Coursera for like 2 years. I was best friends with Udemy for a while as well. I did go on to do a master's, but my first job in machine learning was just from the courses that I learned in combination with the foundation that I had in engineering, right? So I went on to work at a startup that was doing the exact same thing that I had done for my undergrad thesis. So I think a big part is, I took advantage of a lot of online resources. And then I tried to solve a problem that I believed was an actual problem, right? Like energy consumption is a big problem for people all over the world. And I think when you try to solve problems, you'll find other people that are trying to solve problems as well, and you can sort of, work together. I will also say, like, the internships that I did helped a lot. I tried as much as possible, and I still try as much as possible to find opportunities to learn and collaborate and build. So, that could, at first that meant, if I learn about a new algorithm, I would write a blog post on Medium, even if only 1 or 2 people would read it. But, it helped to share knowledge. I got to make sure I actually knew what I was talking about that way. And also interning at Vector, I met a lot of very brilliant people working at Vector. I sort of made myself available to opportunities. So I almost never said no. That's not necessarily a good thing because there were times I was a bit overworked. But yeah, that's mostly like looking for as many opportunities as possible, learning wherever I can learn, and then building and sharing what I learn. Yeah, that's mostly it.
Thank you, Nifemi. So if I could summarize that, it's more like curiosity driven by passion and interest and
Definitely.
continuous improvement. Yeah, thank you so much, Nifemi. I'll pass the same question to Kia. So Kia, what initially sparked your interest in AI and machine learning? And how did it's a career path to reach your current position?
Yeah, similar to the previous speaker, like my background is electrical engineering and master's in computer engineering. At that time, there was no significant coding or development capabilities within the schools. But as I get into the industry, I started with telecom distribution, and I started developing more interest in the computer space and continuously learning, developing myself, and always looked at how would I improve my organization's capability, look at the areas that are not very interesting and look at and make it interesting. And I started my AI journey through predictive AI at that time. We didn't have ML. As I continue to read, experiment on the technologies available at that time, I was captivated by their potential to solve complex problems and drive innovation. seeing the tangible impact of AI and MILA as we progress, and the values brought to my clients fueled my passion of further exploration and deeper involvement in the field. It's just personal development, personal studies. I used to have a lab in my basement. As soon as I come from work, just try experimenting, try to learn as much as possible, take trainings. That's how I continuously developed my knowledge and become very passionate about the AI and ML data in general, information technology environments. This all was before the emerging of generative AI. With the emergence of generative AI, my curiosity only deepened. I continued exploring its capabilities, what incremental value does it provide my clients, my customers, and what are the use cases we should look at. I work closely with our clients, and then okay, that's great. It provides a huge capability like natural language processing and others that my clients may benefit from. However, what are the risks? So learning about risks, mitigation strategies, governance models, just it was nonstop curiosity that drove me to get where I am today. Today, I have several use cases that I'm working on that is based on Gen AI. And it's just every day is a learning day, every day is a learning opportunity. So that concludes my explanation of how I got to where I am now.
Yeah, thank you, Kia. That was really, really great. In fact, we have common themes here. So it's more like curiosity, passion, and like continuous learning. So thank you so much. And so then we're going to switch gears a little bit right now. So this question will go to all our panelists. So what unique challenges have you faced as a Black or Indigenous professional in the AI or ML fields, and how have you overcome them? So I'll start with Kia here.
Thank you. As a colored woman who entered the IT industry a long time ago, when there was few women, leave alone having a colored woman, I faced several unique challenges. One significant challenge was navigating the underrepresentation, which often limits access to mentorship, sponsorship, and networking opportunities. To overcome these challenges, I focused on creating my own growth opportunity and actively engaged with diverse professional networks and communities, and get mentors within my university, especially when I was doing my master's. I was tied to the university. This not only helped me to build supportive network, but also allowed me to contribute to a more inclusive environment. What I mean by inclusive environment is really stealing other networks and be part of it, and bring the best of my capabilities to the business, and that also helped me shine. They didn't look at my color. Instead, what I bring to the table was very, very important. With that, I managed to maneuver changing roles, learning new capabilities, introducing new capabilities into organization, make sure our clients get the best solution from my company. Developing a deep understanding of my employees' business and staying current was the most important thing. I remember when I first started working for Bell Canada, and I never understood what mainframe was. I took this printout of a huge copy, they used to call it copy library, and reading it at home, drawing, charting it, helped me understand the entire business. From there, it was easier for me to transform to client server-based technologies and continuously evolve. So in conclusion, the ongoing commitment for excellence and work around the limitations I face, regardless of biases whatsoever it is, just work around it. Don't be distracted on my career journey. All those are what has helped me and look beyond the systematic challenges I've been experiencing.
Oh, thank you very much. So I would also call on Brian.
Yeah, so interesting. I think that the lack of a degree and maybe master's degree and PhD in machine learning or computer science was actually maybe the biggest drawback of me. And really it was about me with an idea, a plan, a patent to try to go out and do some fundraising so that we could start our project of building, you know, a new type of AI. The other thing that went along with that was more ageism than anything else. I would say that being an Indigenous person was not an initial impediment. It later has become, you know, here I am at this workshop, and I've attended many workshops like this. Now people want to hear from Indigenous people. They want to make sure their technology decisions, their technology reviews are inclusive. So I see a world of opportunity. So this is much more a good news story for me. The setbacks that I had, the challenges that I had actually nothing to do with my indigeneity, shall we say. Right now, I think that it's, I've said this before to people, I'm not sure whether it's culturally appropriate to say this or not, but it's a good time to be an Indigenous person. It's not a bad time. People are looking to reconcile, that people are looking to get your opinion, people are looking to be inclusive. So it hasn't been, you know, I can't say that I'm the victim of racism. I'm a mixed breed. My mom was full Italian, my dad was full Cree. I was, you know, a mixed breed in grade school. We lived in a town with a lot of Indigenous people and French people and European or settlers. And, you know, there wasn't a lot of racism. There was the regular high school and grade school stuff that people said to everyone. So it wasn't, nobody was picked on in particular. So I would say that I'm very fortunate somehow. I'm grateful for that. But I believe that it's a good time. People want to hear the voices of diverse peoples, and I think that's an opportunity.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. So, Lynnsey.
Yeah, thank you. I would also just maybe start by echoing Brian in terms of, you know, the desire, I guess, for diversity, for Indigenous inclusion is really, it does present an opportunity. Having said that, I think, you know, everyone's experience is so unique. I'll note, you know, I'm if we're going to be talking about, you know, on the surface, I'm white passing, you know, in terms of, you know, someone looking at me and that being kind of any kind of form of systemic discrimination, I haven't faced that. Now, having said that, I did grow up out in the middle of nowhere, Saskatchewan, in a community of 300 people. I had a very poor kind of education growing up. And I'm saying this because I think now upon reflection, you know, as I near 40 years old, I'm looking back and you really see how all of these things kind of compound. And you know, when you look around and you see people who have had different advantages, you really see how you know, it impacts your current state. So I grew up again in a small, outside of a Métis settlement, a small community of 300 people, poor access to education. Neither of my parents had completed high school, so I had very little guidance in terms of post-secondary direction, in terms of, you know, different career opportunities to pursue. You know, no financial support. I had to kind of find my own way in life, in terms of, you know, funding my education or kind of, you know, arriving to the point I've reached today. In terms of my arrival or me being in this role now at MILA, it's a bit surprising in some ways. I was never someone who was mathematically inclined. It was something I avoided. I was always drawn more towards the social, the ethical. And I think it also speaks to a moment within the AI space, for those kind of questions to be addressed, that I'm here. But I think, you know, in reflecting upon my upbringing and again, how you kind of see some of those things that happen early on in your life compound and impact, you know, where you are in the world. I think it ultimately made me more passionate and more driven towards kind of like meaningful Indigenous inclusion and engagement within, yes, the AI space or the tech space or STEM or just the Canadian innovation ecosystem kind of more broadly. In terms of like kind of advice in terms of getting over barriers, I think ultimately kind of finding your own way, identifying gaps, getting passionate about those gaps and trying to do something about them. I mean, as you go through life, you increasingly realize no one's really quite sure what they're doing. And I think the AI space is full of people like that who are just figuring it out and kind of making stuff up or trying stuff and realizing that can be really empowering. Yeah, I think that's important. And I also just maybe want to add, you know, there's always a lot of emphasis on barriers and how did you overcome those barriers. But I think there's got to also be an in-reach piece, if I will, within kind of like the broader AI community. It's like, yes, how do Indigenous folks or Black folks overcome barriers to be able to get into this space? At the same time, there's work to be done within the AI community to ask questions about the accessibility of the space, the language we're using, the groups that we're creating and who's involved in them, leadership roles. So I think that also has to be emphasized as well, rather than just, you know, Indigenous folks or Black folks having to identify barriers and work to remove them. So.
Thank you, Lynnsey. And finally, Nifemi, can you add something to everything?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I would say sort of the biggest challenge I faced as a Black person in AI is sort of getting into the field. It's when you don't see a lot of people that look like you working in a space, you tend to feel like, oh, you know, maybe, at least for me, right? I felt, you know, maybe this isn't the place for me if there's no one else that looks like me here. So I'll say underrepresentation was a big thing, right? You know, like I wanted to, I didn't, it felt like there wasn't a direct or clear path for people that looked like me there. Like working in the AI field, and I didn't see as many people there. So yeah, that was one big thing for me. I think what has helped me now is that I do see now more and more people of color in the AI space. I see more Indigenous people in the AI space, and I see efforts being made to actually, you know, help people from different backgrounds get into those spaces. And I also see the people that are in those spaces already be more outspoken, you know, talk about the paths they took to get there, help others actually get there, help others express their interests as well. So yeah, that's mostly it for me.
Yeah, thank you everyone for your answers to that question. I know it could be a very interesting question. So, but the key takeaways there with don't allow like perceived limitations to deter you from achieving your goals and all that. So we'll then move on to the next question. And the next one would definitely be for Lynnsey and Nifemi. So what advice would you give to Black and Indigenous students who are just starting their journey in AI and ML? So we can start with Lynnsey.
Yeah, sure. And I think I've touched on some of this already. I really can't emphasize enough, you know, embracing the unique perspective that you're bringing to the space. You know, I mentioned the Pathfinders program that we launched this summer at MILA. And the MILA community, just more broadly, is so excited and so keen to kind of learn from the participants who have been through this journey. So I really can't emphasize that enough. I think, again, to continually learn, to stay curious, to try new things, and to explore interdisciplinary subject matter within the AI space. So again, right now, you know, interest in kind of this merging of social sciences and AI, or environmental studies, or traditional knowledge, how can that be integrated into AI? Building up a strong portfolio, I already touched on, working on projects that interest you, showcasing community impact as well. Again, always bringing it back to community, seeking out, again, mentorship and networking opportunities. I'd also say that advocating for ethical or responsible AI is also really important. And this would include championing Indigenous data sovereignty and participating in ethical AI discussions or different groups. What else could I add? I think also, I mentioned bringing it back to the community. It's interesting also to think about blending kind of traditional practices with technology, where there's synergies between the two. I think this is very much so a topic that's still budding and being explored within this intersection of Indigenous and AI. I think I'll stop there, but.
Great, thank you. So Nifemi?
Yeah, thanks, Lynnsey, for your answer. I think I'm gonna sort of piggyback on some of the things you said as well. But yeah, I think showcasing your work is very important. So for instance, I think I think you should, share your learning journey, right? Like let people know what you're working on. I think it does one thing, like it helps you grow as an individual, but I think it also brings people that are interested in the same things that you're doing to you. Like it, I think it's a really good form of networking, right? So share what you're working on, work on projects with others that share what they're working on. I think also networking, right? Like there are a lot of decisions that could be good decisions to make. There are a lot of pathways that you might not even be aware of that someone who has taken the time, who has gone through that journey would be aware of. So reach out to people. I think I reached out to a lot of people, and people are usually very willing to help. I think another thing is the projects at places like Vector and MILA are very impactful. Like their goal is actually to help, and they actually do help. Right? Like I'm a product of, like, I did intern at Vector Institute, so I'm speaking from experience. And also one thing is there are a lot of communities. One thing I did learn over time with machine learning is that like people like to share knowledge, right? Like people like to try to solve a problem, share how they try to solve the problem. And there are groups of people like that. There are groups that already exist that work on things like that. For instance, there's a group called ML Collective. They're, they're not-for-profit organization as well. Essentially just people coming together to work on machine learning research. So you could join a group like that, work on something with someone else. You get to build a relationship with someone, and you also get to, try to solve a problem. So yeah, that's mostly it for me.
All right, thank you, Nifemi, for that. So, and Lynnsey, so from what I hear, it's more like more like continuous learning, stay curious, build up like a strong portfolio, seeking out mentorship opportunities, showcase your work, networking. Your network is your net worth. So thank you so much for the answers. So the next question would be to Kia. Can you share some strategies or tips for balancing technical skills with soft skills in the AI and ML industry?
Sure. In my opinion, soft skills are one of the critical elements that you need to acquire to advance in your career, especially communication, negotiation. Those skills are very, very important. Some of the tips are really to look inward towards yourself and identify what your weaknesses are. Where do you need to improve on? Whenever you listen to this type of events or at work, something that attracts you, that you see it from somebody else, and you think it's really that capability helped the person advance, just make sure, like, is it something that you could inherit? So it's important to do a self-assessment to understand where you are with set of your soft skills. Once you identify that, create a goal and a path how you could improve on. The learning, the way we learn is different. Everybody doesn't need to go the same way, but focus on continuous learning in a way that is more advantageous to you. Some of us want to learn individually, some of us want to learn in a group. For language type limitations, especially speaking limitations, join Toastmasters type of organizations. They are everywhere around the corner, and just be part of it. Try to hone your capabilities in that space. It's also a good thing to have a mentor that you trust and who has a vested interest in your growth. Ask openly your mentor or your even leadership team, where do you see me improving? Where do you see me shining? And what do I need to improve on? Once you identify that specific thing, continue focusing on it, practice it whenever you get opportunity. Not only practicing and focusing on it, measure it, compare yourself from where you were about a month or 2 months ago and where you are. And if you see progress, continue doing it until you become an expert on it. Furthermore, regularly reflections on your progress and asking people who are close to you, do you see me progressing? And get a feedback. Based on that feedback, continue working on it. In a nutshell, it's identifying what you need to improve on, understanding it's critical for your successes to improve on those soft skills, develop strategy that works best for you, join groups, join Toastmasters like groups, and make sure you measure your progress.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that, Kia. And yes, unfortunately, that would be our last question because we've come up to the top of the hour. Thank you so much, everyone, for those wonderful answers to the questions. I'm very sure everyone has been able to take out some key takeaways from here, and I'm sure our notebooks are full. So I would pass it right now to Flora.
Thank you so much, Yinka. And so I thank you so much to our panelists. That was such an interesting discussion, and you all shared such great insights. And I just know that it's going to really help all of the students here. So what I'm going to do is I will just spend a few minutes to introduce a very exciting upcoming workshop in September. And then if we have a few minutes left after that, then we'll see how many Q&A questions we can get through. If not, then I have been copying them. So I'll see if our panelists can respond by email, and I'll get back to you on that. But if you are a Black and Indigenous student and you came to this webinar and now you're thinking that this field is really cool, I want to learn something about technology, something about AI. Well, we have a really cool workshop coming up in September. And so this is a 4-day workshop, but don't worry, it's not all day. It's only going to be 2 hours each, and it's going to be held on September 16th, 18th, 23rd, and 25th. And so we have a little break in between the classes. And what we're going to cover are the basics of Python programming. So if you've never programmed before, that's totally fine. This is for everyone, regardless of your background. So we'll go over some basic Python, like how do you explore a data set? How do you visualize the data really quickly in graphs? To all the way to the point of building a simple machine learning model. So like before the end of the 4 days, you're actually going to build your own machine learning AI model, which is super cool. And on the 4th day, we're going to talk about generative AI, which is a hot topic nowadays. It's all the foundation of ChatGPT. So we're going to talk about, what is it? What are some use cases? How does it kind of work in the background? And we're going to have another guest speaker. So it's going to be a really great workshop. The deadline, again, is August the 20th. And it is the same registration link that you used to register for this webinar. And some of you might actually have already signed up for the workshop when you signed up for this webinar. And if you haven't yet, don't worry, you can just go back to the same link. I think Taylor can also send, post it in the chat. And then you can just pick the option that says, I want to sign up for the workshop. And you can just sign up right there. And it's free. And we really welcome all of Black and Indigenous students, or if you've recently graduated, you're all eligible. And if you have any questions about this workshop, I will put my email in the chat, and you can feel free to send me an email anytime. So otherwise, let's go through to see if we can answer a couple of the questions. So in the Q&A, let me start with that one. Someone asked, what books or websites do you recommend for staying informed and continuing to learn about AI? So open this to any of our panelists, maybe just a quick few suggestions.
I'd be happy to go.
Go for it, Lynnsey.
So I'm going to make 3 recommendations. The first is Atlas of AI, which is by Kate Crawford. So Atlas of AI, Power, Politics, and Planetary Costs of Artificial Intelligence, which is largely focused on responsible AI. I'll put them in the chat here. Design Justice, which is about community-led practices to building AI systems. And the third recommendation is Human Compatibility, which is AI safety focused by someone named Stuart Russell.
Thank you so much, Lynnsey. Anyone else want to add a couple more resources?
Yeah, maybe I could do a quick one. There are different views on this book. So the name of this book is Hands-on Machine Learning with Scikit-learn and TensorFlow. People don't use Tensor. Well, I wouldn't say people don't use it as much. A lot more people in the industry are using like PyTorch now, but I think that book is very hands-on. Like, it provides a lot of good context, and it provides really quick, easy to understand like explanations of a lot of topics. And I think it's the kind of book you can read cover to cover, and after reading it, you'll have a really a usable foundation to start solving problems, to like build stuff. So yeah, I really like that book.
Thank you, Nifemi. Those are great suggestions. All right, so we have a few more minutes, so maybe we'll cover another one of these questions. And so there's a question that came in earlier on the chat, asking about what your thoughts are on the Canadian experience, in quotes, requirement by many companies as a barrier to securing a first AI job in Canada, particularly for immigrant professionals. Does any of our panelists have perspective on that, or experience, or any advice?
I guess I can comment a little bit. The advice I would have goes back to the networking. If those are the requirements, then that might not be the place for you. It might not be the low-hanging fruit for you. The networking one is the one where I've hired people, and I've hired people without Canadian experience because they came after a session like this that might have been in person. They came up and talked to me. They said they want to work. They asked for an internship opportunity. I gave them an opportunity, and then I later hired them. So I think that networking is your friend. I think you've heard that a few times here from almost every one of the panelists.
Wonderful. Thank you, Brian.
I think.
All right, so go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I can lend my voice to that because I came in here like a couple of years ago, about 7 years ago. So I heard about that too. But the truth is, I would reiterate what Brian just said. So networking is your friend. It puts your foot in the door. And the most important thing is for you to be able to actually itemize your experience properly on your resume. So whenever the recruiter is reading it, it can actually tell what you've done before. And by the time you network with the right person and they see what you have done before, then the rest should be easy. Yeah.
Wonderful. So I see that we are at the top of the hour now. So Taylor, I'm not sure if you want to add anything, but I just want to thank you again for our panelists and also for our attendees that came to this webinar and asked such great questions. And hopefully I'll see some of you at the workshop coming up in September. So I know that we didn't get through all of the questions, but I have been copying them to a note file. So I will see if our panelists can answer some of them, and I'll get back to you on that. So thank you again, everyone, for attending this webinar, and I hope you have a great day.